when I am well, I really need to look after this vessel, the mind, the
Mm-hmm.
body. Like,
Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Selinsky, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today's guest is a powerhouse who spent the last 15 years proving that motherhood and ambition aren't just compatible, they're a competitive advantage. She went from a career as an award-winning filmmaker and TV director to becoming one of the UK's original digital pioneers as the Honest Mom. She's an author, a fierce advocate for maternal rights, and she's just released a stunning new book, Greek Myths, Folktales and Legends, which brings a feminist lens to the ancient stories we thought we knew. We're diving into the transition from film sets to mommy blogging, why she hates the term mompreneur, and how she reclaimed her voice after a traumatic birth to build a global brand. So without further ado, let's welcome Vicki to the show. Welcome, Vicki.
hi, thanks for having me on your fabulous podcast, Samantha.
I am so excited to learn all about you. But to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So, Vicki, what is your drinking wine of the week?
So of the week, now that it's really warmed up in the UK, we've actually got a heat wave. You know, UK is not really known for heat waves. So I've been drinking some lovely, refreshing English sparkling wine. So it's made in a very similar way to champagne and sparkling wines, but it's here in the UK, and it's very crisp and light. And yeah, I'm really enjoying that, because I often like a glass of rosé as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it's been perfect.
I'm going to have to check out the English sparkling wine because I don't think I've ever had. I love Prosecco. I love champagne. So I feel like that would be right up my alley,
You would love it.
especially as weather's.
Really amazing quality English sparkling wines, actually. So yeah, definitely try it.
And what is your complaint wine of the week?
I would say that my daughter is at nursery and they constantly pick up every single bug going, which I think is good for their immune system. But I feel like I've tested so much with one bug after another. I would just like to go to preschool and not come give us all some new bug, please. Because I've actually I had a sports injury and 2 slip discs. So for the last 6 weeks, I've been unable. I mean, for 4 weeks, I couldn't move. I was on
Oh
crutches.
my goodness.
I literally the last couple of weeks I felt myself again, and my pain manageable. So yeah, I definitely don't want any vomiting bugs or anything, please.
I know. I'm hoping now that we're out of the winter season that it will get a little bit better. So I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, so I understand.
You get they- to get the system strong. Sometimes it feels relentless, and at the moment everybody's dealing with it, and you get a new
I know.
preschool. Oh, kids have got this, and then you just, oh my gosh, it's stressful.
And what's your win of the week?
Well, I suppose walking without crutches has been really good the last couple of weeks. But if we look specifically at this week, I've upped my walking, and I did like 18,000 steps yesterday, which I was really.
Oh,
My physio is not going to be happy with me, because she said don't do too many. But she did say if you end up doing more, just rest today. So today's my rest day. But I
awesome.
feel like getting back to normality is a big win. I think
Yeah,
when something like that happens and it comes out of the blue, you just realize, oh my gosh, so many people are dependent on me.
right.
The fact that you can't parent how you want to, the fact that you're in constant pain, like, it really reminded me of how precious my health is. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I definitely feel like it's been a win to feel normal again. Definitely been amazing. I'm so grateful.
I know I can't imagine as a mom being in such, like you were just saying, in that phase where you can't do anything and you are the most probably helpful person for them. It's just like,
You do so much as a default parent, as
yeah,
you, everybody stepped up massively. I've got
well,
two
that's
old
good.
well, so I've got a 16 and a 13, and my 16-year-old was cooking, and oh my gosh, everybody really stepped up. And in a way, I think they realized how much I do, because I think so much
Hmm.
and mums particularly do is invisible. So I think like when that mum has to stop for whatever reason, it shines a light on like, wow, you do. So even like
Yeah.
I'm like a what you call a soccer mum in American Canada, and it's like I'm constantly getting my son to football and daughter here, and it's just honestly all that had to stop, or someone else, and it's just reminded everybody of like, wow, mum is busy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better from it all, because that
Yeah,
is, yeah, I'm
definitely.
sure they missed you.
They did. And also, I missed being a really active mum. And I missed, for 4 weeks, I had to sit on a sofa in a very
Mm,
specific way so as to try and alleviate pain, although it was constant pain. And, you're on pain relief and it's just tough. It's really, really hard
yeah.
because you want to be doing all the stuff and you can't. And I really feel sorry for people that have, chronic issues and disability.
Hmm.
It is really, really hard. And I don't think society's that set up for people that can't do stuff either. And you only really experience you yourself are living with, right? So no, it's been feeling really grateful and also renewed excitement for like years ahead.
Yes. Well, that's going to be a good transition into our next part, which is fitness. What is your favorite way to stay active
So
outside of the last 4 weeks?
yeah, I mean, I've always loved yoga. It was something that I did a lot of when my boys were younger and I was really, really consistent. And then I think you go from 2 to 3 kids and you've got two, right? But three is like
Yeah.
33. I think it was someone else said it and I took it from them. I'm like, that is it. And it's tough. So finding time. So I'm trying to do a bit more yoga at home. The neurosurgeon I've been under his care, he said to me, Pilates, yoga, swimming and walking should be the
Hmm.
would. So I'm really trying to do a lot more of that. And I think for me, walking is quite easy. Like we live in Yorkshire in the countryside. It's very, very pretty. I walked to my daughter's school yesterday, walked back. And when the weather's good, it's like, and I've got this app on my phone so I can see my steps. And I'm that person that needs goals, even when it comes to like step count. So I can kind of give myself a little tick. I've done 10,000, I've done this. But really, I think for most women, we deprioritize ourselves
Hmm.
last on the list. And I think dads do this as well. We're so busy as parents. We are spread as thinly as butter.
Right.
One of the big lessons in dealing with acute pain, dealing with injury recently was when I am well, I really need to look after this vessel, the mind, the
Hmm.
body, like, because you cannot be strong for anybody. And first and foremost, I think we need to really, really be serious about that. Not just, yeah, I'll do this. And like, so I'm trying to be very intentional and mindful about everything. And that's also including what I'm eating, what I'm putting in my skin, all those things. I just want to
Hmm.
really look after myself and not just be last in the priority list.
I
So
know.
collagen, having vitamins, like eating a healthy Mediterranean diet, but also allowing myself treats as well, but just being mindful about everything. And you know what, I've talked about this a lot, but I'm only really fully whatever the last year I would say that I'm being a lot more strict about what I'm doing.
Yeah. And it is so important. If we put ourselves for, I always say when we put ourselves first, everybody else is happy because we're happy.
Exactly. It's like that happy life. I say to my husband,
Ye-
and everyone's happy because tend to be the foundation. And that's not to
Mhm.
say dads have to pitch in equally and things like that. So I'm not diminishing anybody's role, but I think that I've always been an incredibly maternal person and I am very active and I am a little bit of a control freak as well. So I like to be across everything,
Yes.
finding a lot of pleasure in my work and that intellectual stimulation and writing books and things. Because I think for me, that's another element of being happy, having the space
Hmm.
right. And I think for a lot of us that are working digitally, we're creating videos, reels, TikToks that are what you would call editorials. So they're like things that we love and that are fun. And then, we're also working on campaigns again with brands that we love and that we want to advocate for. But that's like the more paid activities. So we're essentially online magazines,
Hmm.
think that, yeah, it's just been nice to be more mobile and doing more fun things and, filming,
Awesome.
really normality.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And you, speaking of your digital footprint, you are the honest mom. So we have to talk a little bit about parenthood. What
So,
do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
oh gosh, I think going from naught to one baby is the biggest jump in the world.
Yes.
Jumping off a cliff and, you try to parachute up and it takes about a year to come up. It's tricky. I remember feeling incredibly shell shocked. Did you feel that way?
Hmm. Oh my, I was like, everyone said, "Oh, one baby is so easy." And I was like, "What is this?" Like 1 to 2 was fine for me, but 0 to 1, I was like, "I cannot believe that people are reproducing." Because
Go from like a sort of life where you can have spontaneity, you can do
Mhm.
stuff, you've got kind of some routines, rituals, and then suddenly this little baby who cries all the time, who is attached to either your breast or a bottle constantly, that you are having to look after, care for. It's actually the biggest jump. I think it's harder than 2 to 3. I think it's harder,
Yeah,
I say the one thing is once you've got a baby, life feels pretty chaotic. So you're just adding
right.
the chaos, but going
I
from
agree.
stability to like suddenly the baby is in control of everybody's
Right.
schedules. And also you're learning as you go. And I think what was interesting when I had my first baby, I was pregnant at 27 and had him just as I turned 28. And I was actually the first out of everyone I knew to have a baby.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that makes you quite lonely because all your friends are working and whatever. And I remember the group of mums we have something called NCT here. They were all a lot older than me in that group. And it wasn't that we didn't get on but they were in a different chapter of their lives
Mhm.
in terms of everything, whether that was career stability, like what they were doing. It was really, really different. So I did make some friends, but I did feel very isolated and I was far from my mum. And genuinely, I know like 28 doesn't sound that old, but I felt really young.
I feel like it's young for babies for me. I didn't have my kids till 34.
I have this 6'2" 16-year-old who looks like 21. And we were in London the other week because I was, attending a press briefing with the government and we made a bit of a weekend of it. And although my son couldn't come to the event with the Prime Minister, he went off to a cafe and we're walking around and I'm like, I saw some people looking at us a bit confused, which hopefully it's like maybe look youthful. I don't know, probably not. A lot of concealer to hide the bag. Looking at us like, is that his mum? Like, I do look like his mum, so I'm not deluded. But it was just, I noticed a few people sort of looking, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have this boy. He used to be my like little baby. Now,
Mhm.
man,
Yeah.
still too young to have the man. That's a baby. He needs to be like maybe my middle one's 13. Yeah, that's fine, but like 16, looking a lot older. It's scary. And
I
then
know.
4-year-olds, I've got I'm going through, each child is going through whatever, puberty and exams and then child tantrums. It's not for the weak.
Right. And you had Florence is your daughter's name, right? Is that and you had her after 40 and with 2 teenagers already in the house. How
Well, they
did
age
becoming
were 11 and they were 11 and 9.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're teenagers now and she's 4.
Yeah.
So, I had Florence when 5 days before turning 41. So yeah, uh,
Okay. So it's
40.
yeah.
Physically, I had a really great pregnancy, probably the
Right.
easier than when I was 27. Had,
Mhm.
had hyperemesis with my first, whereas vomiting all the time. It was terrible. Whereas with my second baby, I didn't have that. With her, I didn't have that. So I did get poorly at the end of the pregnancy, nothing to do with age or anything. And I ended up having quite a traumatic birth with her. So my first baby at just 28 was a traumatic birth, and my third. And it's really interesting because even though I'd shared a lot about birth trauma and advocated when I was in the thick of it with my third baby, it was really hard still to reach out for help because I was trying to survive. And with 3
Right.
now, and it was like, everything was harder. And it was one of the reasons we decided to move back to Yorkshire from the south to like live with my dad, because I definitely felt with three kids, if I could have a village around me, I needed it. It's
Important.
more than ever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think, wow, there's a lot of things that are great about having big age gaps. So the fact that like, so it was a, 11 and 9 year age gap. I think that was, or 12. I think that was so nice because the boys matured a lot and
Mm-hmm.
we were kind of experiencing what it's like to nurture a baby. They're still kids. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't give them like parental responsibility style things, but the fact that they learned so much about looking after this cute little bundle and they loved it and they're all really, really close. They irritate
Yeah.
each other now because the 4-year-old is, she's like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
They wind each other up, but it's lovely to see their bond. But it
Yeah.
was
Well,
hard. First year was hard. Wow.
we yeah. My age gap is actually exactly the same as your kids are. So I'm 11 years older than my brother. My sister is 9 years older than my brother.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was almost 40 when she had Robbie.
Amazing. And how was
Yeah.
it?
It was awesome. We loved it. We loved having him as our little, like, he was like our baby doll, basically. And yeah, we're super close. We're in his wedding in June. Our husbands are in his wedding. We see each other all the time. And it's so funny because, yeah, like watching him grow up, I'm like, I remember everything from 0 till now. And I'm like, how are you getting married?
That will have influenced you as a parent because it's so character building and as a child and having this little, like you say, this like baby doll that you look after. And my boys were desperate for a sister. They were, because I wanted to leave it as a surprise. And they were like, no, no, no. And I really, and the joy, they were elated. Because they had each other as brothers and they just really wanted to experience. And it's so sweet when I see the boys playing with them because what's interesting, I don't know if you found this as well. The blessing of an age gap is that the boys, it almost elongates their own childhood, right? They
Mm-hmm.
get to
Mm-hmm.
they're playing, they're in the playgrounds, they're in spaces that are for younger kids because they've got the sister or they've got the brother
Right.
that's sibling. And it actually extends their childhood in such a precious way that
Yes.
people worry a lot about age gaps, and I always say, like, don't worry about that. It's honestly
Yeah.
such a lovely thing for everyone involved. But yeah, three kids is very, very intense. You're out, everybody's, there's always one kid ill, crisis, school thing. So I definitely think you have to be very, very tough in terms of like strong as a person, not tough on your kids, because I'm like the softest person ever. But yeah, I think that our move, if you do end up having, for anyone that does end up having three kids, if they are able to be around close friends, family, and I think that's such an important thing of survival, really, of
Mm-hmm.
because that, if you look historically, if you look at our ancestors, like that kind of setup was always the way. And there's even some studies that say that women become menopausal because they wanted the sort of matriarch, the grandmother, to help raise grandchildren. So it's, some researchers see it as like an evolutionary thing as well, which I find
Wow.
thing.
That's really cool. All right, so let's get into you. Your bio says you're a filmmaker and author, and of course, the honest mom. But if I bumped into you at a grocery store and had zero time for the elevator pitch, how do you describe yourself to a stranger?
I think I would just say like I'm a creative, really, that I'm a writer and that I would always say, that I'm a mum because that's the biggest, most important role to me that dominates my life. When you're a mum, that's the thing to me is the most important and also at the most time. So yeah, I would definitely be like, I mean, usually I'd say I'm a writer. I mean, I do quite a lot of TV work in the UK and that gives you like a sense of visibility. That so often I find if anyone stops me, they've either seen me on TV or they've seen me on social media. I think the
Yeah.
really funny thing was when Florence, I mean, I still have quite a lot of viral content, but when Florence was little, she was constantly going viral on Instagram. And we always had like lovely mums stop us and be like, oh, I saw that video. And it's really But I think what's interesting with social media is like you can have this international like reach. So someone in the grocery store might not have ever heard of you, but something's gone viral and loads of Americans have seen your video. So I kind
Yeah.
of feel like I would never consider myself famous per se. I would just say that people have a certain visibility online, and that really
Hmm.
quite powerful. And I think in the last year that I've moved into, well, last few years, really, quite a few years, moved into like more political spaces and trying to help shape policy for the better or advocate for mums and campaign. I think that's been really important to me.
Yeah.
Using a platform for good and try and mobilize parents to help them with flexible working there's a lot of that work that's been really interesting for me as well. I've loved.
Yeah. I love that. And it's such an interesting space being in the like content creation world. And I feel like when people ask what do you do, I always kind of stumble. So I like to hear what other people say. And then the other thing, in your book, Mumboss, you talked about battling imposter syndrome, which I absolutely have. And even
uh,
now, like with all your awards, your TV appearances, do you the imposter still?
and I mean my book is called The Working Mom in America
Yeah.
and
Okay.
not called Mumboss. It's only called Mumboss in the UK. But just to distinguish that.
Hmm.
But I would say that I'm constantly feeling that way. And I would say that with every child, I've lost a huge amount of confidence. And I would say that even now, there is that thing of, going to like number 10, which is the equivalent of like going to the White House or something. I mean, it really is.
Okay.
I'm like, oh my gosh, should I be here? Kind of like, but also I think what was interesting, I was one of very few women working as a director when I worked in TV and film. And
Hmm.
we were told at film school when I did my master's, you really have to walk into that on set. You're lucky enough to get there. I mean, I worked in the film industry for many years. I worked for the BBC. I started working in TV and film all through like school, everything. I was working in local news. It was like what I really wanted to do. And I remember them saying, you really do have to like fake it to make it. And that was being
Hmm.
19, 18, that you do have to go on set and this is a male dominated field and you are worthy. And if you don't feel it, you have to ground your feet to the floor and just convince your brain. And obviously, I didn't really know a lot about neuroplasticity then, about the fact that
Right.
more that you practice things and do things that you start believing it. And I've
Hmm.
had a lot of therapy as well, which I think is such a gift. And I think it's a really important thing to do if you can access it, even before kids, to heal a lot of that inner child stuff, to work through it,
Hmm.
because it's going to show up, because that's what happens in life, not just with kids,
Yeah.
but generally with stress, with whatever. So I feel like I'd kind of won quite a lot of battles as a TV director. And then I was told, you do need to have a baby before you're 30 if you want to have kids. So I was like, oh my gosh, just because of I had a condition called PCOS, which they say
Hmm.
that even before Florence said nothing's visible with that condition, not in blood tests, not in scans. So that's really interesting. There's not enough research done about women's health, really. So
Hmm.
essentially I felt like I'd won a few battles there. I'd won awards as a director, but then you pivot into another career.
Yeah.
Mine was completely accidental, like 15 years ago. No one even knew what a blog was in the UK when I set up. So I think I've had to fight to be taken seriously quite a lot. But obviously,
Hmm.
background as a filmmaker and having won awards, and my films were in Oscar qualifying festivals. I'd worked for a really famous TV producer, I'd worked for the BBC, I'd had that behind me, and quite young. I was like, why is no one taking me seriously now? Because they don't understand this space. So, in a way, helped me advocate for other creative mums, helped me really push what it meant. The campaigns that I did were really pioneering. I was the first digital creator to work with an airline, right?
Wow.
It was like, there should be no stopping us. And now there's like millions, which is amazing. I was definitely in the wave of people that were the OG kind of creators.
Hmm.
Also, I was one of the very first to come up with these really pioneering ideas of like let me be an ambassador, put me on the plane, let's do this, let's do, I was, because I'd had that directing background and I'd shot commercials and I made TV drama, and I was like, there's no limit to what we can do. We just put it online. So yeah, and I suppose now I'm just looking for more things to stimulate me and excite me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
children's book was one of them. I'm now looking ahead to other things. I think that the US do it really well, because there were American bloggers when I started out and they were massively successful, right? So I was like, well, we can do that here, surely.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
got a great history of the arts, of storytelling, supply that. And it's actually, looking back on it, it's really weird that it wasn't of any, it was purely timing. If you are at the advent of anything, you have this USP, you have this advantage. Yes, I
Mhm.
skill set that was transferable. So of course storytelling came a lot easier to me, but it meant that like doors could be opened in really
Mhm.
ways. And it matched a time when advertisers were moving online. Like it was the advent.
Right.
So I'm very much, it's due to timing as well.
Yeah.
I can't take all the credit. Like it just happened that I was on mat leave when the advent of digital was happening.
So cool. And you've been called a mompreneur, and that's a term that you have found
Well,
famously patronized.
my mum boss, because it's like, it felt like quite empowering. You're a boss, but especially if your business was related to being a mum. But I don't know why. I don't hate it. I just find it just gives me a little bit of the ick, purely
Yeah.
because, yeah, it didn't feel like, I don't know, because maybe it's a hypocrite to say that because I like Mumboss. I find that empowering. I think because Mumboss came off the back of Girl Boss and it felt
Right.
like a zeitgeist term, particularly at the time. But I just feel like mumpreneur is like just distorting entrepreneur. And really, mum bosses are entrepreneurs. But, maybe it's hypocritical of me.
No, I don't think so, because I think like mom boss is like a power term for someone, like it's like I guess like a description of someone. A mompreneur kind of, I feel like, if you it like not dumbs down what you're doing, but there's no dadpreneurs, like if
Yeah. Sure. Whereas
I
you
feel like it is different.
also, but I mean, look, I think some people are really triggered by these terms. They find them kind of, like you say, just reductive.
Yeah.
If something is part of, I don't feel like mumpreneur became part of the zeitgeist, really. I
Right.
don't think anyone was calling themselves that. And I think a lot of language is about, a load of mums were calling themselves mum bosses and they loved that term and they found it like empowering.
Right.
So I think it's not, because language is not just in a void. So I feel like mumpreneur was other people, like men mostly calling mums that. And it's also
Right.
about saying it. And where does that land? And what does that feel like? I think that's what language is.
Mhm.
So really with Mumboss, I saw women appropriate that term. I didn't invent it. So I took it from I was like, well, that's really what this is about. And my kids made me a boss. They made me a mum.
Yeah.
But I feel like entrepreneur has been something that has been given to us mostly
Yeah.
from, you've got to make language work for you, as long as it's not offensive, as long as it's not
Mhm.
hurting. If you find mumpreneur like exciting for you and validating and empowering, great. If you
Yeah.
don't, that's okay too. Like no one's pushing you to use things. I
Yeah.
definitely found something really exciting and made me feel really like confident, and at a time when
Yeah.
I had a lot of confidence. But back to the confident thing, I think it's very, very hard when you are giving everything of yourself to your kids in the first few years to feel confident, because it's like learning a language. You have to practice to feel speak. And I did so much Duolingo in French, and then I would meet up with French friends and I would still stop. And I realized it's because I'm not really practicing that language. If I'd lived in France and I was doing that, I would feel so much more confident. And it's the same. You are out of practice. You are out of the workplace. You are out of giving presentations, or you're out anything that you're not doing repetitively, you're not going to feel good at. So
Right.
you're being, and I think as women, we doubt ourselves a lot because we are working in a patriarchy. So we don't have lots of things going for us in terms of infrastructure. So I think that also makes it hard. So I remember actually before video became a really big thing. I mean, YouTube was big, but Instagram hadn't launched reels, things like that. Everything's video now, right? I remember my husband saying to get confident, why don't you get this Canon camera, put it on a little tripod and just film yourself every day? You don't even have to share what you film, just so you get into the practice of doing that
Hmm.
all the time. And I ended up sharing quite a lot of the content, not everything, but a lot. And that put me in really good stead. And that's someone that used to be a director, but I wasn't.
Hmm.
I was behind the camera. So
Right.
my advice is if you want to do something, even if nobody in the world sees it, whether that's writing a book or doing, practice first until it becomes naturalized.
Right.
Creativity particularly is like a muscle that requires exercise. And it's like if you're writing a novel, if you're writing a book, it's all in the rewrites anyway. So there's a very good book by Dorothea Brand, Becoming a Writer by Dorothea Brand. And it was written in the 30s, and other people have taken her exercises and they've made them their own or they've changed them or whatever. But her exercise that I still swear by is that every morning you write this stream of consciousness and you don't read it back and you don't think about it. You just write. Okay. And you do that every single day and you fill up your diaries. And what that does is it removes the barrier between you and your laptop, you and your notepad. Obviously, in the 30s, they were writing, right? I don't even
Right.
typewriter came out, but I'm sure it was a lot less. But that thing has boded so well for me.
Oh, I might try that.
Yeah, you should, but you mustn't read it back because it doesn't matter what you've written. There's the part of your brain that is just writing, and then it honestly makes it 100 times easier to start whatever it is. Because
Hmm.
we're looking at blank pages, we're procrastinating when a lot of that is just through lack of practice.
Yeah.
She taught me a lot. That book is really should be every writer's first port of call.
Awesome. And speaking of writing, you just came out with a new book, Greek Myths, Folktales and Legends. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I don't know if it's available in the US. I don't think it is, but it's out in the UK and it's done really, well. I'm really happy. When I say it's done well, I mean like it's been received so well by children, which is my biggest goal. Like obviously it's lovely when you get nice sales and things, but no one goes into children's books to make a million unless you're this massive children's author. It's not like an immediately like very lucrative thing, but that didn't
Right.
bother all. It was very much about writing. So I retold Greek myths, which I grew up with, and are really foundational stories that influence European storytelling
Hmm.
massively, 2,500, 3,000 years ago, and influenced Shakespeare and these incredibly powerful stories, love stories, and also really surreal and a bit bizarre. We've
Right.
got of Troy who was birthed from a swan's egg, and we've got all these incredible characters, but it was a joy. And I went back and I did so much methodical research and tried to go back to the earliest iterations because they were word of mouth first, and then they were written down by Homer and Hesiod. And then I was like, how do I make these feel modern and fresh?
Right.
The kids. So that's what I did. So it's for 8 to 12s and I'm really proud of it. And I've been on a school book tour and just meeting kids that are like so excited about my work is just such a pleasure. And I've had some emails from parents and teachers saying that children they know of that were very book shy are loving the book and won't put it down.
Oh,
To me, I'm just like, oh, and what's lovely, it's a collection of stories. So you can dip in and out, you can read one, like it doesn't feel overwhelming. So yeah, I really loved that. And I learned a lot because there were myths that I'd never even read or heard of that I included in there. So that was
hmm,
cool. I would definitely recommend all children like dive into
yeah.
the.
Did you have a favorite myth that you wrote about?
Yeah, so there's a story of Persephone, which and the six pomegranate seeds, which I'm sure you've heard of. There's like a musical, Hades Town, that is reflects that as well. And that's a really beautiful story, and why I loved it so much. It was about a bond between a mother and daughter. So it reminded me of my mum as well. And obviously my daughter, she's very little, but and the daughter Persephone is stolen by the god of the underworld, and her mother doesn't know where she's gone. And she spends the year searching for her. And in that year, she makes everything turn to autumn and winter. And when she's reunited with her daughter, it becomes spring and summer, which is very like Frozen. I'm sure they were influenced
Yeah.
as so many modern movies have been influenced by Greek myths. But what's so lovely is just that this such a beautiful bond that they have, and the fact that Demeter, goddess of the harvest, will never stop searching for her daughter. And it just is very moving. And meanwhile, her daughter's in the underground, and she's, forced upon this marriage. And in some versions of the myth, she falls in love with Hades, in others she doesn't. And it's just a really interesting dynamic between world and the outer world. And actually, this, I did loads of research, and Demeter and Persephone were like feminist heroes to
Ooh,
and they were heroes to the Romans. And they had these massive festivals where people would honor them. Because remember, in those days, the harvest, the crops were how everybody lived. So these are
right.
like such important goddesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so fascinating. So yeah, I just wanted to create stories that had more equality as well for children, so that both girls and boys would feel empowered by these heroes.
Right.
And honestly, was probably one of the biggest career highlights of my life to like
Oh,
read.
fun.
I felt like I had such a responsibility to do that. Also, I was like, okay, so Homer and Hesiod retold these stories all these years ago. And I'm like, until probably 6 months or whatever, the next person that retells these myths, right now, I'm the latest in that line of Greece
Yeah, that's so
that have
cool.
told those stories, not from an egotistical perspective, but from a perspective of like being a caretaker of these stories and keeping
Right.
the fire burning. So in the Olympics, they passed the fire torch.
Mm-hmm.
They passed it to me. I've written it. There'll be someone else in a year or 2 years or whoever who retells them again. But for now, this is my little baby.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's such a fun way to think about it. I love that.
Really.
So, your platform has been just growing and reaching so many people, and you've had some awesome opportunities to work directly with Meta. And I always like to, selfishly ask some questions about growth as I'm trying to grow. And so are many of my followers, trying to grow social media. And sometimes it can feel like you're in the US term, the wild, wild west. You don't know what you're doing. So, for anyone listening, can you give some tips?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm on the Facebook and Instagram creators program, and you have meetings with Meta, and they also invite me to these like lives with really big creators, and also people in the industry, like MDs of agencies and people at Meta, which has definitely over the last, I don't know how many years, few years, maybe 3, 4 years, have really helped me in terms of honing my voice, knowing my audience, providing value. There's a term, and I worked at the BBC and I still do freelance for the BBC work. There's a term, a Rethian term. So it's like based on this director general at BBC, where he was like, inform, educate, and entertain. And I think that's something that stuck with me, that I create content that I like consuming myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very fascinated by research. So I like to make these videos that are like, did you know? And it's very centered on parenting children, advice, also stuff that's quite unique that I
Mm-hmm.
know about. And I'm like, well, if I didn't know my audience, and I obviously include the sources, or if I've been inspired by someone, I always credit, but it's like really important to me because I enjoy that. But I also enjoy quite funny stuff. So I think that my mix is like informative, educational, but also I like to do fun stuff. Again, it's
Right.
personality. So if you're a food creator, you need to work out what's the stuff I like to consume, how can I do it, and almost deconstruct stuff, play around. So get your light ring, shoot different angles, make sure you're not shooting into the light, make sure everything's in focus. Because the thing is, all these platforms, they want crisp, they want good, clear imagery, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
well lit. for my audience, it's very time short. So I aim no more than 10 seconds because I know that really, if you look at the research, people only have a 3-second attention span. So you've got to hook
Mhm.
seconds. I know that trending music's really important. One thing that I also really enjoy is TikTok. And I find that, it's really fun over there. And because I don't have a huge following over there, I feel more relaxed. So like I can share something that doesn't do great. I'm not panicking that like
Right.
my views and things. But one thing I would say is that, yeah, when it is your job, it does become more high pressure. So
Mhm.
a period where you're building and growing, you can try lots of things. You can try things through the trial reels before you post, which is a good way to do that. But equally, I think you, like anything, you need to be very specific. So, for instance, if you're sharing a reel, you should have quite a long caption because what you're doing is you're telling the algorithm exactly what they're doing so they know how
Mhm.
to do your reel to. And most of the people they're directing to are non followers.
Right.
So I think there's a bit of a thing like short content, useful or entertaining. Consistency is so key. So really ideally
Mhm.
posting once a day if you can, or if you can't, make sure it's every 2 days and make sure you're teaching the algorithm that every 2 days you are going to post, right? Because
Right.
essentially it's a machine. It's similar to Google. You have to let it learn from you. And guess
Yeah.
what? Become a trusted person, creator to the algorithm, to whatever, they will repay you in reach. But you do have
Yeah.
to stick to things and you do have to meet the criteria of well shot and then, all these things. I find that text on top of videos does really well because people are like reading in a loop and then they've watched it like 2-3 times.
Yes.
But also Facebook is a great place to like upload and to earn from. So
Mhm.
I mix it up. I do videos on Instagram that I instantly cross over to
Post.
share, but then also upload onto Facebook natively. And then that's
Okay.
more money. And I would say as well that don't worry about repeating yourself. Because if you think that the majority of people that are watching your content Instagram and Facebook are pushing out to people that don't originally follow you. You can
Right.
just, so if something did really well, you can repeat it in 2 weeks' time. No one's
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh, she repeated that. And loads of creators do that. So I think do your research, save things that you like, recreate stuff that say a trend, but always caption who's inspired you. Just really think about the stuff that you want to do and put out there.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to do that is what do I like watching? What entertains me? How can I make my version of it and make it unique?
That's awesome. Well, you have given us so much wonderful information. I loved chatting with you, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. But I'm going to leave the listeners with one last question. You are the honest mom. What is one piece of advice that you would give to parents who are trying to juggle it all and maybe feel like everyone else is more curated than them or have it all together?
I think we're all dealing with chaos. And I think even if people are showing a side to themselves, we're all human, we're all dealing with things. And I would just go easy on myself and try not to compare your life. I know it's hard because everything is sort of in front of you, even if you're not seeking it out. But I mean, my mum always said to me, there's always going to be people that are more attractive than you, smarter than you, richer than you. There's always going to be that. You've really got
Hmm.
to earn with being content with who you are right now and what you're doing. And I would say things that distract you from some of that noise in a way and because really what it is just you being hard on yourself and feeling
Right.
enough. That's what it all comes back to. So I think moving your body, eating well, nourishing yourself, doing mindfulness, those things, although they're like, yeah, yeah, we know it. But if you actively start doing that and you start working on you, that sort of that healing, that sort of thing, it makes you stop doing those negative
Hmm.
spirally things. And I think it's so easy with social media. If you're in a bad mood, you can just look for things to like
Yeah.
itch that spot. Well, stop doing that. Go play some nice music, paint, draw, write, journal.
Right.
Go watch. There's amazing stuff on Netflix and on TV. Like, go and just I don't know, like feel stimulated. But I also think one thing that's always stuck with me is that if you don't live your life, you can't really do creative stuff. You
So
know,
true.
constantly just constantly making reels or doing stuff about nothing. You do have to like live and like that should be the most important thing, really. So I hope that's useful.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. I think that is
much. I've loved it. It's been great.
yes. This was so fun, and I
Yeah.
think that is certainly the perfect place to end it, so it's gonna bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. Again, I think that one of my biggest takeaways, as you said, with the imposter syndrome and going for it, just stop waiting for permission to be the hero of our own stories, whether you're navigating a career pivot or just trying to survive the school run. So thank you for reminding us all of that.
You do have to take risks and it's
Yeah.
not gonna work out all the time, and that's okay. Like, in the same way you're gonna have bad days parenting and great days parenting, but you do just make some leaps and feel uncomfortable at times because that's the only way to grow, and if things don't work out, that's okay. There's another you pick change, you do different stuff. Like, it never ends. That's just life, isn't it? It's just constantly
Yes.
change. So I hope that's really useful. Thanks, Samantha. So
Listeners can find you. As always, thank you so much for joining us on The Running Wine Mom and spending time with us. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a mom who needs to hear it. You can follow me on Instagram at the running wine mom _ and Vicki, where can the listeners find you?
honest man.
Awesome. And I will link all of that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, keep embracing the joy of motherhood. And thank you, Vicki, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you. See you guys next Tuesday.